The year is 1948. In a cold, damp flat on the island of Jura, off the coast of Scotland, a dying man sits at his typewriter. His lungs are destroying themselves. Tuberculosis has ravaged his body. He knows he has perhaps a year left, maybe two if he's lucky. His name is Eric Blair, though the world knows him as George Orwell, and he is racing against death to finish a book. Not just any book. A warning, a prophecy, a nightmare made concrete. He types despite the pain, despite the blood he coughs into handkerchiefs, despite knowing each day might be his last. The book must be finished. The world must be warned. The manuscript is titled 1984. He chose the title by reversing the last two digits of the year he was writing, 1948 becoming 1984. A near future. Close enough to be believable, far enough to be terrifying. Orwell had seen things. He had fought in the Spanish Civil War, taken a bullet through the throat, watched as idealists were betrayed by the very revolution they fought for. He had worked at the BBC during World War II, creating propaganda, learning firsthand how governments manipulate truth. He had studied totalitarian regimes, understood their methods, recognized their patterns, and he saw something others missed. The war was ending. Hitler was defeated. But totalitarianism was not dead. It was evolving, adapting, learning from its mistakes. The future dictatorships would be smarter, more sophisticated, more total in their control. They would not rule by terror alone. They would rule by controlling thought itself. They would not just punish dissent. They would make dissent impossible to conceive. They would not just rewrite history. They would make the very concept of objective truth disappear. This was the warning Orwell wanted to deliver. Not a prediction, not science fiction. A warning about what could happen, what was already happening, what would happen if people did not pay attention. He finished the manuscript in December 1948. By January 1950, tuberculosis had killed him. He was 46 years old, but the book survived. Published in June 1949, 1984 became an immediate sensation. Critics recognized its importance. Readers were horrified by its vision. The book entered the cultural consciousness and never left. Orwell died before seeing his warning take full effect. He never knew that 1984 would become shorthand for totalitarian nightmare. He never saw Big Brother become common language. He never witnessed how accurately he had diagnosed the disease of modern tyranny. This is the story of that warning. Not a summary of the plot, not literary criticism, but an examination of what Orwell understood, what he feared, and why his warning matters more now than ever. The architecture of control. Orwell understood something fundamental about power. Traditional tyrannies ruled through fear. You obeyed because soldiers might kill you. Simple, brutal, effective to a point. But this approach had weaknesses. Fear creates resentment. Resentment festers. Eventually, people rebel. Every empire built on fear alone eventually falls. The new totalitarianism would be different. It would not just control behavior. It would control thought. It would not just threaten punishment. It would eliminate the capacity to imagine alternatives. In 1984, Orwell created Oceania, a superstate covering the Americas, Britain, and parts of Africa. Oceania is at perpetual war with either Eurasia or Eastasia, the other two superstates dividing the world. But which enemy Oceania fights keeps changing. Yesterday's ally becomes today's enemy. History is rewritten. No one remembers it was ever different. The party rules Oceania. Not a political party in the normal sense. The party is the state, the government, the law, reality itself. The party's leader is Big Brother, whose face appears on posters everywhere. Big Brother is watching you. Does Big Brother exist? Probably not. He is likely a fiction, a construction, a face put on collective power. But this does not matter. The people believe in Big Brother. They love Big Brother. And loving an image is easier than loving actual rulers who can be seen, judged, found wanting. The party divides society into three classes. At the top, the inner party, about 2% of the population. These are the true rulers, though even they serve the party's collective will. Below them, the outer party, the bureaucrats, technicians, low-level officials. They run the machinery of state but have no real power. At the bottom, the proles, 85% of the population, the working masses left largely alone as long as they remain politically unconscious. The protagonist, Winston Smith, is outer party. He works at the Ministry of Truth, which handles propaganda and historical revision. His job is to rewrite old newspaper articles, making them align with current party doctrine. If the party said chocolate rations were increasing when they were actually decreasing, Winston would find the original article and change it. Then the original would be destroyed. The new version would be the only version. The past would have always said what the party now claims. This is not mere censorship. Censorship admits that something existed and was forbidden. This is erasure, making things that happened unhappen. Not saying, we forbid you to remember, saying it never occurred. The party maintains control through multiple systems working together. Not one method but many, reinforcing each other, creating total dominance. First, surveillance. Telescreens are in every home, every workplace, public spaces. They transmit propaganda constantly, but they also watch, recording everything said, every action, every facial expression. You can never know when someone is watching, so you must assume someone is always watching. The thought police monitor for signs of disloyalty, not just criminal acts, thought itself. A wrong expression at a propaganda speech. A moment's hesitation before cheering. Anything suggesting inner doubt. Children are encouraged to inform on parents. Spouses betray each other. No relationship is safe. Trust becomes impossible. Second, perpetual war. Oceania is always at war. The war consumes resources, justifies shortages, creates fear of external enemies. But the war is not meant to be won. Winning would end the war, eliminating its useful functions. The war exists to maintain permanent emergency, justifying party control. The three superstates are roughly equal in power. None can defeat the others. They fight over disputed territories, back and forth, endless stalemate. Orwell suggests they may even coordinate their wars, maintaining the conflict that serves all three ruling groups. War also provides an enemy. Citizens are taught to hate the current enemy with passionate intensity. Then when the enemy changes, they must immediately transfer their hatred. The party claims Oceania has always been at war with the new enemy, always been allied with the old. And people believe it. They must believe it. Doubting is thought crime. Third, scarcity. Despite advanced technology, life in Oceania is deliberately kept harsh. Food is rationed. Goods are shoddy. Housing is decaying. This is not economic failure. It is policy. Why? Because satisfied people are dangerous. People with full bellies and comfortable lives start thinking about freedom, justice, meaning. People struggling to survive think only about survival. Keep them hungry, keep them tired, keep them focused on basic needs, and they will not question power. Fourth, the destruction of language. The party is developing Newspeak, a new language designed to make certain thoughts impossible to express. Not just difficult, impossible. Words are systematically eliminated or simplified. Bad becomes ungood. Why have two words when one with a prefix works? Excellent becomes plus good. Gradations disappear. Precision vanishes. Political vocabulary is carefully controlled. There is no word for freedom in the political sense. The word exists only in statements like, "This dog is free from lice." Freedom as an abstract right, something humans deserve, this concept has no expression. Orwell understood that language shapes thought. If you lack words to express an idea, forming that idea becomes difficult. If a language has no words for political freedom, imagining political freedom becomes nearly impossible. Newspeak is not yet complete in 1984. It is being gradually implemented. But the goal is clear. Create a language where heresy is literally unthinkable, because the words to think it do not exist. Fifth, the control of reality itself. This is the deepest level. The party does not just control what you can say or do, it controls what is true. The party's slogan captures this. Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. If the party can make people believe whatever it says about the past, it can justify anything in the present. If it can change history at will, making yesterday's truth today's falsehood, then truth itself becomes whatever the party declares. This is not lying in the normal sense. Liars know they are lying, maintaining internal awareness that truth exists, and they are violating it. The party goes further. It insists that objective reality does not exist. Truth is what the party says. If the party says 2 plus 2 equals 5, then 2 plus 2 equals 5, not as a lie, as truth. This is the architecture of control Orwell envisioned, not crude brutality, sophisticated, multi-layered, total domination of human consciousness itself. The Ministry of Truth. Winston Smith works in the Ministry of Truth, called Mini-True in Newspeak. The name is Orwellian doublespeak. The Ministry of Truth does not seek or protect truth. It manufactures lies. There are 4 ministries. The Ministry of Peace wages war. The Ministry of Plenty manages scarcity. The Ministry of Love handles torture. And the Ministry of Truth controls information. These inversions are not accidental. They reflect the party's approach to reality. Words mean whatever the party says they mean. Concepts exist only as the party defines them. Language itself becomes a weapon, turned against clarity, wielded to confuse rather than communicate. Winston's job is simple in description, complex in implication. Each day he receives documents, newspaper articles, speeches, records, anything published in the past. His task is to alter them to match current party positions. If the party predicted plenty, but there is scarcity, the old prediction must be changed to have predicted scarcity. Then the party was correct all along. If the party declared someone a hero who has now been declared a traitor, all records mentioning that person must be corrected, removing or inverting the praise. The original documents are destroyed, dropped into memory holes, incinerated. The new versions take their place. The past is rewritten, literally, continuously. This is not occasional propaganda. It is systematic, every day. Every document, every claim, all history is constantly being adjusted to serve present needs. And the system works. Most people do not notice. They have no access to originals. They cannot compare today's claims with yesterday's evidence. They remember vaguely that something was different, but they cannot prove it. And memory is unreliable. Perhaps they are mistaken. Perhaps the party is correct. It becomes easier to accept the party's version than to maintain a separate reality in your head. Orwell understood that history is power. Groups who control historical narrative control how people understand the present. If you can convince people that the past was terrible, they will accept your authority as necessary improvement. If you can make them forget past freedoms, they will not demand their return. Every totalitarian regime rewrites history. Stalin erased people from photographs, made unpersons of those he purged. Mao rewrote China's past to justify his present. Modern authoritarian states continue this practice, banning books, controlling curricula, punishing historians who report inconvenient truths. But Orwell saw the endgame, not just censoring history, obliterating the very concept of historical truth, making the past entirely fluid, changeable, whatever the present requires. Winston has a peculiar job within this system. He is skilled at rewriting history convincingly. He can take a complex situation and craft plausible-sounding revisions. He has a talent for lies that feel like truth. But this talent makes him dangerous. To rewrite history, you must understand that you are rewriting it. You must hold 2 versions in your mind simultaneously, the real and the revised. This creates cognitive dissonance, and cognitive dissonance creates doubt. Winston begins to doubt. Not openly, not consciously at first, but small rebellions start. He keeps a diary, writing in an alcove of his apartment where the telescreen cannot see. Writing itself is rebellion. Having private thoughts, unmonitored, is rebellion. He writes, "Down with Big Brother." Just writing these words is a death sentence. If discovered, he will be vaporized, erased from existence, his name deleted from all records, his life made to have never happened. But he writes anyway, because the alternative is accepting the party's reality. And some part of Winston cannot accept it. Some small flame of sanity remains, insisting that truth exists, that 2 plus 2 equals 4, regardless of what the party claims. This is Orwell's first warning. Totalitarianism requires the cooperation of those who implement it. Every tyranny needs bureaucrats, technicians, clerks, millions of ordinary people performing the small tasks that maintain the system. Most will comply, but some will doubt. And those doubts are the weakness in the armor. The question becomes, can doubt survive? Can the individual mind maintain sanity against collective madness? Can objective reality withstand organized assault? The destruction of privacy. Privacy is the foundation of independent thought. When you are alone, truly alone, unwatched, your mind is free. You can think forbidden thoughts, feel forbidden emotions, imagine alternatives. The party understands this. Privacy must be eliminated. Telescreens achieve this. They watch constantly. They cannot be turned off. Every home, every workplace, public spaces, all contain telescreens. You can never know if someone is watching, so you must assume someone is always watching. This creates self-censorship more effective than any external censorship. You monitor yourself. You police your own expressions. You become your own jailer. But surveillance goes deeper. Children are trained to watch parents, to report suspicious behavior. The Spies, a party youth organization, encourages children to betray family loyalty. They are taught that loyalty to the party transcends all other bonds. Orwell based this on real totalitarian practices. Soviet Russia encouraged children to inform on parents. Nazi Germany had the Hitler Youth. These were not aberrations. They were systematic attempts to destroy the family as a competing source of loyalty. The family is dangerous to totalitarianism. Family creates bonds stronger than ideology. Parents teach children values independent of state indoctrination. Family provides refuge, a space where masks can drop, where true feelings can emerge. The party cannot tolerate this. Every relationship must serve the party. Even marriage exists only for reproduction. Love is suspect. Passion is dangerous. The only acceptable passion is directed toward Big Brother, toward the party, toward the eternal enemy. Winston has no real friendships. Friendship implies trust, and trust is impossible under surveillance. He has acquaintances, colleagues, but no one he can speak honestly with. He is isolated within crowds, alone though never private. This isolation is deliberate. Isolated individuals cannot organize. They cannot coordinate resistance. They cannot even confirm that their doubts are shared. Each doubter thinks he is alone, that everyone else believes, that he is the only one questioning. This creates the illusion of unanimous support for the regime. Everyone sees everyone else apparently conforming, participating, believing. No one realizes that others are also faking, also doubting, also trapped in private resistance they dare not express. Orwell understood that totalitarianism thrives on atomization, not the physical separation of individuals, but their psychological separation. You can live among millions and still be completely alone if you cannot form genuine human connections. Modern surveillance technology has made Orwell's vision more plausible than he could have imagined. Telescreens seemed far-fetched in 1949. Today, cameras are everywhere. Our phones track our locations. Our browsing history is monitored. Social media profiles reveal our thoughts. Facial recognition can identify us in crowds. The technology for comprehensive surveillance exists. Whether it will be used as Orwell feared depends on social choices, political decisions, cultural resistance. But the capability is real. Orwell also understood that surveillance changes behavior even without conscious awareness. Studies show that people act differently when they know they are being watched. They conform more. They take fewer risks. They suppress unusual ideas. Just knowing surveillance is possible creates a chilling effect. You do not need to watch everyone constantly. You just need people to believe they might be watched. This is the genius of the telescreen. You cannot tell when it is active, so you must always behave as if it is. This is the second warning. Privacy is not just a personal preference. It is a precondition for mental freedom. Without privacy, independent thought becomes nearly impossible. The mind begins to conform, not because it is forced, but because it cannot do otherwise under constant observation. Doublethink in the assault on reason. The party demands something seemingly impossible, that people believe contradictions, not just accept them, genuinely believe them. This is called doublethink. The ability to hold two contradictory beliefs simultaneously and accept both as true. The party slogans embody doublethink. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. These are not just propaganda. They are training exercises in doublethink. By accepting obvious contradictions, citizens learn to abandon logic, to surrender reason, to believe whatever they are told regardless of evidence. How does this work? Orwell explains through Winston's colleague Syme, an enthusiast for newspeak. Doublethink means the power of holding two contradictory beliefs in one's mind simultaneously and accepting both of them. The party intellectual knows in which direction his memories must be altered. He therefore knows that he is playing tricks with reality. But by the exercise of doublethink, he also satisfies himself that reality is not violated. The process has to be conscious, or it would not be carried out with sufficient precision, but it also has to be unconscious, or it would bring with it a feeling of falsity and hence of guilt. This is sophisticated. You must consciously lie while unconsciously believing the lie. You must know you are manipulating truth while simultaneously accepting your manipulation as truth. Why is this necessary? Because the party needs intellectual agility. Reality keeps changing. Yesterday's ally is today's enemy. Yesterday's truth is today's heresy. The party needs followers who can instantly reverse their beliefs without experiencing cognitive dissonance. Doublethink also destroys the concept of hypocrisy. Hypocrisy requires that you recognize a gap between what you claim and what you believe. But if you truly believe both, if doublethink is complete, then no gap exists. You believe everything you say at the moment you say it. This makes the party immune to charges of inconsistency. When the enemy changes, when the past is rewritten, when policies reverse, no one notices. Not because they are stupid, but because doublethink prevents noticing. Orwell recognized that totalitarianism requires the destruction of logical thinking. If people can think logically, they can spot contradictions. They can compare claims with evidence. They can notice when reality does not match propaganda. Logic is dangerous. Therefore, logic must be eliminated, not banned overtly, but made impossible through doublethink training. Children receive this training from early age. They are taught to accept authority over evidence, ideology over observation. They learn that feeling is more important than facts, that loyalty supersedes truth. By adulthood, most party members are accomplished doublethink practitioners. They have internalized the process. It operates automatically. They no longer notice when they accept contradictions. Winston struggles with doublethink. His job requires it. He must know he is changing the past while believing the past has always been as he makes it. But something in him resists. He cannot complete the mental gymnastics. He retains a stubborn belief that objective truth exists. This makes him dangerous. The party cannot tolerate people who maintain allegiance to objective reality. They are carriers of sanity in a world of organized madness. They are infections that might spread. Orwell's warning here is subtle. He is not saying that people in totalitarian states are stupid or gullible. He is saying that sustained assault on reason can destroy reasoning ability. If you are trained from childhood to accept contradictions, if your survival depends on suppressing logical thought, then logic itself can be damaged. The human mind is adaptable. It can learn to function in many modes. It can be trained to reason or trained to accept unreason. Which path it takes depends on environment, education, social pressure. Modern societies face this danger constantly, not from obvious totalitarian states, but from subtler erosions of rational discourse. When truth becomes tribalized, when people believe claims based on group loyalty rather than evidence, when contradictions are ignored if politically convenient, doublethink is emerging. The 2 minutes hate. Each day in Oceania, workers stop for the 2 minutes hate. Telescreens show images of Emmanuel Goldstein, the enemy of the people, traitor to the party, leader of the Brotherhood, the supposed resistance organization. Goldstein's face appears. His voice speaks, criticizing the party, questioning Big Brother, advocating freedom. And the viewers explode with rage. They scream at the screen, they curse Goldstein, they throw things. The hatred is visceral, physical, overwhelming. For 2 minutes, all restraint vanishes. Pure rage pours out. Then the hate shifts. Big Brother's face appears. The rage transforms instantly into adoration, love, gratitude. They chant Big Brother's name. They weep with devotion. The emotional violence of hatred becomes the emotional violence of worship. Orwell understood something about human psychology that others overlooked. Emotions can be cultivated, directed, weaponized. You can train people to feel specific emotions on cue. The 2 minutes hate serves multiple functions. First, it provides an outlet. People living in oppression accumulate frustration, resentment, anger. This cannot be directed at the party, but it must go somewhere. The 2 minutes hate channels it toward the official enemy. Second, it creates group cohesion. Shared hatred bonds people together. When everyone around you is screaming at Goldstein, you feel connected to them. You are part of the group, united against the common enemy. Third, it trains reflexive loyalty. The sudden shift from hate to love is practice in emotional obedience. You learn to feel what you are told to feel when you are told to feel it. Winston participates despite his doubts. He screams at Goldstein. He chants for Big Brother. Not because he wants to, but because not participating would be noticed, and being noticed is dangerous. But during the hate, something happens. Winston notices a dark-haired girl, a woman he works with. He has seen her before, always viewed her with suspicion, assuming she is an enthusiastic party member, possibly even thought police. But for a moment, during the hate, her mask slips. Winston sees real hatred flash across her face. Not hatred of Goldstein. Hatred of Big Brother, of the party, of the whole charade. Or does he? Did he really see it, or did he imagine it? This is the uncertainty totalitarianism creates. You cannot trust your own perceptions. Everyone might be sincere, or everyone might be faking. There is no way to know. The girl's name is Julia. Eventually, she will approach Winston, tell him she loves him, reveal that she too is rebellious. But not now. Now she is just a glimpse of possible dissent, or possible entrapment, or possible delusion. Orwell based the 2 minutes hate on real phenomena. Totalitarian states regularly organize mass rallies, public denunciations, ritualized expressions of loyalty and hatred. These are not spontaneous. They are orchestrated. Nazi Germany had rallies where thousands screamed loyalty to Hitler, hatred toward Jews, worship of the state. Soviet Russia had public trials where crowds demanded death for supposed traitors. Maoist China had struggle sessions where accused individuals were subjected to mass denunciation. These rituals serve psychological functions beyond their obvious political purposes. They normalize extreme emotion. They make violence feel justified. They blur the line between individual and collective consciousness. Modern equivalents exist. Social media pylons perform similar functions. An enemy is designated. The crowd attacks. Everyone participates, demonstrating loyalty, purging frustration, bonding through shared rage. Then the target changes, and yesterday's ally becomes today's victim. The 2 minutes hate is Orwell's warning about orchestrated emotion. When governments can trigger mass feelings on command, when rage and love become reflexes rather than authentic responses, individual emotional autonomy vanishes. You cease to be a person who feels and becomes an instrument that is played. Thought crime and the thought police. In Oceania, the worst crime is thought crime, not actions, thoughts. You can be arrested, tortured, killed for thinking forbidden thoughts, not saying them, thinking them. How can thoughts be detected? Through surveillance, yes, through telescreen observation, but also through behavior analysis. The thought police watch for signs, a wrong expression, talking in your sleep, a moment's hesitation before cheering. They also encourage betrayal. Your neighbor might report you, your coworker, your spouse, your children. Everyone is a potential informant. Trust becomes impossible. Winston knows this. He knows keeping a diary is thought crime. He knows his doubts are thought crime. He knows that one day, probably soon, the thought police will come for him. The question is not if, but when. This creates a peculiar psychology. Winston is already guilty. He has already committed crimes deserving death, but he has not yet been caught. He exists in a space between crime and punishment, guilty but free, condemned but still walking. He begins to wonder about the Brotherhood, the supposed resistance organization led by Goldstein. Does it exist? Or is it a myth created by the party, a honeypot to trap potential dissidents? If the Brotherhood exists, how does one join? You cannot search for it. Searching would be suspicious. You must wait to be approached. But will you be approached by genuine rebels or by thought police? This uncertainty is paralyzing. Any action might be a trap. Inaction guarantees nothing changes. Winston is stuck, unable to do nothing, unable to safely do anything. Orwell understood that thought crime does not require thought police to be effective. The concept alone creates paralysis. If thoughts themselves are criminal, then you must monitor your own mind constantly. You become your own torturer, scrutinizing every mental movement for signs of heresy. This is the deepest level of control. External surveillance watches behavior. Thought crime policing forces you to watch yourself, to patrol your own consciousness, to become complicit in your own oppression. Modern societies flirt with this concept, not through official thought crime laws, but through social mechanisms. Certain thoughts become unspeakable, not illegal but career-ending. People learn to suppress forbidden ideas not because government will arrest them, but because they will be socially destroyed. This creates self-censorship more effective than any censorship law. You do not need police to enforce thought control if society does it for you. Orwell saw this danger. He saw that freedom of speech means little if thinking certain thoughts makes you unemployable, unpublishable, untouchable. Legal freedom combined with social punishment creates de facto thought crime. The warning is clear. Thought crime need not be codified to be real. When internal thought becomes subject to external judgment, when people must hide what they truly believe, when sincerity becomes dangerous, thought crime has arrived whether or not it has a name. Winston and Julia. Winston eventually connects with Julia, the dark-haired girl from the fiction department. She slips him a note in the Ministry of Truth. I love you. Love, the most dangerous thing. More dangerous than hate. Hate can be directed, channeled, used. Love creates loyalty independent of the party. They begin meeting secretly, risky, terrifying, necessary. They rent a room above an antique shop in the Proles district, a place with no telescreen. For hours at a time, they are private, unwatched, free. In that room, they talk honestly. They reveal their hatred of the party. They admit their doubts. They share the burden of sanity. But their rebellion is limited. Julia is not interested in overthrowing the party. She does not care about ideology or politics. She just wants small freedoms, small pleasures, small acts of defiance. Winston is different. He wants more. He wants to believe organized resistance is possible. He wants the brotherhood to be real, to fight the party, to preserve truth. They are different kinds of rebels. Julia is practical, focused on personal survival and small freedoms. Winston is idealistic, concerned with abstract truth and systematic resistance. Orwell is making a point. There are different modes of dissent. Some people resist by living as fully as possible within constraints. Others resist by fighting the constraints themselves. Neither is wrong. But they are not the same. And totalitarianism understands both types, has strategies for each. Julia represents existential rebellion. She does not challenge the system directly. She just refuses to let it fully consume her. She finds spaces, moments, ways to remain human despite everything. This kind of resistance is sustainable. You can practice it for years, maintaining sanity, preserving self. But it does not threaten the regime. The party can tolerate individual non-compliance as long as it remains hidden, private, contained. Winston represents ideological rebellion. He wants to challenge the system's foundations. He wants objective truth to survive. He wants history preserved. He wants the party to fall. This kind of resistance is dangerous but brittle. It makes you a target. And if you are caught, you break. Their love is real. That matters. In a world designed to prevent authentic human connection, they achieve it, briefly, incompletely, but genuinely. Sex is part of their rebellion. The party treats sex as purely reproductive. Pleasure is suspect. Passion is dangerous. Sex should be duty, joyless, mechanical. Winston and Julia reclaim sex as pleasure, as connection, as assertion of humanity. Their bodies become territory the party does not control. But the relationship is doomed. They both know it. One day the thought police will come. Their crime will be discovered. They will be separated, tortured, destroyed. They try to prepare themselves. They promise to betray each other. Under torture, they will say anything, do anything. They accept this. What they hope is that even if they betray externally, they can preserve something internal, some core that remains loyal. This hope is naive. They do not yet understand what awaits them. O'Brien and the Trap. O'Brien is an inner party member. He appears friendly toward Winston, seems to share his doubts. Winston becomes convinced O'Brien is part of the Brotherhood. One day, O'Brien invites Winston to his apartment, supposedly to give him a Newspeak dictionary. But when Winston and Julia arrive, O'Brien reveals he knows they are rebels. He recruits them into the Brotherhood. He gives Winston a book, supposedly written by Goldstein, explaining how the party maintains power. Winston reads it eagerly, finally understanding the system he lives under. The book explains that the party seeks power for its own sake, not to build utopia, not to create equality, just to exercise power, to dominate, to control. The book explains that the three superstates maintain perpetual war deliberately. The war consumes resources that might otherwise improve people's lives. It justifies scarcity, maintains fear, prevents the dangerous satisfaction that comes with peace. The book explains the class structure. The high want to stay where they are. The middle want to overthrow the high. The low just want basic decency. Revolutionary movements occur when the middle recruit the low to overthrow the high. But once successful, the new high betray the low, establishing new hierarchy. The party has solved this cycle. It prevents the middle from mobilizing the low by keeping the low politically unconscious. The proles are fed entertainment, alcohol, gambling, cheap distractions. They are kept occupied with survival. They never develop political awareness. Meanwhile, the party keeps the middle, the outer party, under surveillance. Any member showing ambition or independent thought is eliminated. This prevents internal challenges. The result is stable totalitarianism, capable of lasting indefinitely. Winston reads this and feels vindicated. His doubts are confirmed. The system is exactly as bad as he suspected. He is not crazy. Reality is as he perceives it. But this vindication is a trap. O'Brien is not a rebel. He is thought police. The Brotherhood may not exist. Or if it does, O'Brien is not part of it. Everything was a setup. The recruitment, the book, all of it designed to lure rebels into revealing themselves. When the thought police finally come, Winston is not surprised. He has been expecting them. Julia and Winston are both arrested, taken to the Ministry of Love, separated. Winston will never see Julia again, not in any meaningful sense. Their love, their rebellion, their hope, all of it is about to be systematically destroyed. The Ministry of Love. The Ministry of Love is where the party breaks people, not just punishes, breaks, destroys them completely, then rebuilds them as loyal party members. Winston is imprisoned, tortured, starved. But physical torture is only the beginning. The party wants more than compliance. It wants genuine belief. O'Brien oversees Winston's torture. He is patient, methodical, almost kind. He explains what is happening. The party is saving Winston from himself, curing him of the disease of sanity. O'Brien teaches Winston doublethink. He shows Winston 4 fingers and asks how many there are. Winston says 4. O'Brien tortures him. He asks again. Winston, desperate, says 5. O'Brien tortures him more. Wrong answer. The answer is not to lie and say 5. The answer is to truly see 5. To look at 4 fingers and perceive 5. To believe 5 even while knowing 4. This is what the party requires. Not external compliance, but internal surrender. Not pretending to believe, but actually believing. The torture continues. Days, weeks, months. Winston loses track of time. His body breaks. His mind begins to fragment. He confesses to crimes he did not commit. He betrays everyone. He says anything they want. But it is not enough. O'Brien knows Winston is still faking, still maintaining a core of resistance, still holding on to objective reality. O'Brien explains the party's philosophy. We are the priests of power. God is power. But at present, power is only a word so far as you are concerned. It is time for you to gather some idea of what power means. The first thing you must realize is that power is collective. The individual only has power insofar as he ceases to be an individual. He continues, we control matter because we control the mind. Reality is inside the skull. You will learn by degrees, Winston. There is nothing that we could not do. Invisibility, levitation, anything. I could float off this floor like a soap bubble if I wished to. I do not wish to, because the party does not wish it. This is madness, but it is the logical conclusion of denying objective reality. If truth is whatever the party says, then physics itself bends to party will. Not actually, but in the only place that matters: human consciousness. O'Brien is not claiming the party can actually levitate. He is claiming that reality exists only in minds, and if the party controls all minds, it controls reality itself. Winston resists. He clings to simple truths. 2 + 2 = 4. Physical laws exist. Reality is external to consciousness. O'Brien shows him his own body, wasted from torture. "You are rotting away," O'Brien says. "That is what you are. You are the last man. Your kind is extinct. We are the inheritors." Winston still resists. There is one thing he has not surrendered: his love for Julia. Deep inside, in a place torture has not reached, he still loves her. This love is his last connection to humanity, to authentic feeling, to something the party does not control. O'Brien knows this. He's been waiting for the right moment. Now he prepares the final stage. Room 101, and the final betrayal. Room 101 contains the worst thing in the world. Not the same thing for everyone. For each person, Room 101 contains their deepest fear, the thing they cannot face, the ultimate terror. For Winston, it is rats. O'Brien brings Winston to Room 101. He shows him a cage of rats, starving, vicious. He explains that the cage will be fitted over Winston's face. The rats will be released. They will eat through Winston's face, burrowing into his skull. Winston breaks completely. He screams. He begs. He will do anything, say anything. O'Brien asks what he wants. Winston says, "Do it to Julia." This is the final betrayal. The last thing Winston possessed was his love for Julia. Now he betrays it. He does not just say he betrays it. He genuinely wants Julia to suffer instead of him. In that moment, his love transforms into its opposite. O'Brien releases him. The rats never touch him. The cage was enough. The threat was enough. Winston has surrendered everything. He is released, allowed to sit in a cafe drinking victory gin, playing chess, waiting to be executed eventually. But execution is not the point. The point was to break him, to prove that everyone can be broken, that no human can withstand the party. Winston sees Julia one time after their torture. They meet by accident. They confess that they betrayed each other. They feel nothing for each other. The love is dead, replaced by nothing, not even hate, just emptiness. Winston sits in the cafe. A news bulletin plays. Oceania has won a victory. Winston feels a surge of joy. He loves Big Brother. This is not sarcasm. It is literal. Winston has been completely broken and remade. He genuinely loves Big Brother now. His resistance has been erased. The person he was is dead. What remains is a shell that serves the party perfectly. The book ends. He loved Big Brother. These 4 words are among the most chilling in literature. They represent total victory of totalitarianism over the human spirit. Not just killing Winston, killing everything Winston was and replacing it with what the party wanted him to be. Orwell's message is clear. Given enough time, enough resources, enough control, totalitarianism can break anyone. There is no unbreakable human spirit. There is only limited totalitarian reach. If a regime can truly isolate you, truly control your environment, truly dedicate itself to your destruction, it will succeed. This is the darkest part of Orwell's warning. He is not saying resistance is futile. He is saying resistance alone is insufficient. The only defense against totalitarianism is preventing it from achieving total power in the first place. Once it has you, once you are in the ministry of love, it is too late. The warning extended. Orwell finished 1984 believing he was describing a possible future. He did not know he was also describing the present, not perfectly, but recognizably. The Soviet Union under Stalin had already achieved much of what Orwell depicted. The constant revision of history, the cult of personality around a leader, the surveillance state, the show trials, the torture chambers. the ideology that demanded not just compliance, but belief. Mao's China would later demonstrate more parallels: the Cultural Revolution's attack on the past, the Red Guards turning children against parents, the struggle sessions forcing public confession and self-denunciation, the systematic destruction of traditional culture. North Korea today shows Orwell's vision realized: a hereditary dictatorship maintaining total information control. Citizens taught to worship the leader as a god. No outside information permitted. Reality itself carefully constructed. But Orwell's warning extends beyond obvious totalitarian states. He feared that democratic societies might also drift toward the patterns he identified, not through sudden coup but through gradual erosion. Surveillance expands. Each expansion is justified: fighting terrorism, preventing crime, protecting children. Each justification seems reasonable. Together, they create comprehensive monitoring. Language becomes weaponized. Words are redefined. Concepts are inverted. Political discourse degrades into slogans. Nuance disappears. Complexity is reduced to team loyalty. Truth becomes contested. Not specific claims, but the concept itself. Different groups assert different realities. Evidence is dismissed if politically inconvenient. Alternative facts becomes a phrase people use unironically. Memory becomes unreliable, not because history is actively rewritten, but because information overload makes it difficult to remember what happened yesterday, much less last year. The past blurs. Only the present remains sharp. Emotion becomes political tool. Outrage is manufactured. Hatred is directed. The 2 minutes of hate becomes 2 hours of cable news, endless scroll of social media, constant stimulation of anger and fear. These are not identical to Orwell's Oceania. Democratic societies have protections totalitarian states lack: free press, opposition parties, independent judiciary, civil society. These matter enormously. But Orwell understood that totalitarianism is a direction, not just a destination. Societies can move toward it without fully arriving, and each step in that direction makes the next step easier. The warning is not, "We are living in 1984. The warning is, we could slide toward 1984 if we are not vigilant, if we accept each small erosion, if we normalize what should alarm us. Technology and modern parallels. Orwell wrote before computers, before the internet, before smartphones. His telescreens were crude compared to modern surveillance technology, yet his vision seems more plausible now than when he wrote it. Smartphones track our location constantly. Apps monitor our behavior. Social media platforms analyze our thoughts through our posts. Data brokers compile profiles more detailed than any secret police could have managed. Facial recognition can identify us in crowds. License plate readers track our movements. Metadata from our communications reveals our social networks, our habits, our secrets. This technology is not inherently totalitarian. It depends on who controls it and for what purpose. Democratic societies can have surveillance and still maintain freedom if oversight exists, if law constrains government power, if citizens can push back. But the temptation is always there. To expand surveillance just a little more, to monitor just a little more closely, to intervene just a little sooner. Each expansion seems justified in isolation. China's social credit system demonstrates one possible path. Citizens are monitored constantly. Behavior is scored. High scores bring privileges. Low scores bring restrictions. The system shapes behavior through positive and negative reinforcement, creating compliance without obvious coercion. This is not Orwell's crude boot stamping on a human face forever. This is sophisticated, data-driven, algorithmic control that feels almost gentle even as it binds tighter. Western nations watch with concern, but also curiosity. Could similar systems solve social problems, reduce crime, improve public health? The technology exists. The question is whether to use it. Orwell's warning applies. Surveillance technology is not neutral. It changes the relationship between citizen and state. Even if used benevolently today, it creates infrastructure that could be abused tomorrow. The people who build surveillance systems may have good intentions. The people who inherit those systems may not. And dismantling comprehensive surveillance is much harder than preventing its construction. Language and the corruption of discourse. Orwell feared the destruction of language. Not that language would disappear, but that it would be degraded, simplified, weaponized until clear thought became impossible. Newspeak was his fictional example. Modern reality provides real examples. Political language becomes increasingly empty. Politicians speak in focus-grouped phrases, poll-tested slogans, meaningless abstractions, freedom, security, values, words that sound significant but communicate little. Technical language obscures reality. Enhanced interrogation instead of torture. Collateral damage instead of dead civilians. Revenue enhancement instead of tax increases. Language that hides what it supposedly describes. Tribal language replaces precise language. Words become team markers. You can identify someone's political tribe by which terms they use. The words stop conveying information and start signaling loyalty. Orwell wrote an essay, Politics and the English Language, published in 1946, before 1984. In it, he argued that unclear language enables unclear thought, and unclear thought enables political manipulation. He advocated for simple, direct, honest language. Prefer concrete words to abstract. Prefer short words to long. Never use a complicated word where a simple one will do. If you can cut a word, cut it. His rules were not just stylistic preferences. They were defense mechanisms against manipulation. Clear language resists misuse. Vague language invites it. Modern discourse often violates all of Orwell's principles. We use euphemisms constantly. We prefer complex abstractions to concrete specifics. We pad sentences with unnecessary words. We write to impress rather than communicate. And this degraded language makes us vulnerable. When we cannot express ideas clearly, we cannot think clearly. When we cannot think clearly, we cannot resist manipulation. Orwell's warning about language is perhaps his most practical. We can, individually, refuse to participate in language degradation. We can insist on clarity. We can demand that others say what they mean. We can model precise expression. This seems small. It is not. Language is the foundation of thought. Protecting language protects the capacity to think. The power of resistance. Orwell's vision is dark, but it is not hopeless. He shows resistance at multiple levels. The proles, the working masses, are left relatively free. The party considers them too politically unconscious to be dangerous. But this means they retain something: authentic human culture. They marry for love. They raise families. They maintain relationships based on genuine feeling rather than party ideology. They preserve human connection in its most basic form. Winston observes them and feels hope. As long as the proles remain human, he thinks, humanity survives. If they ever become politically aware, if they organize, if they refuse compliance, the party could not stop them. There are too many. Their potential power is overwhelming. But the proles never organize. They lack education, leadership, ideology. They have the potential but not the actualization. This is Orwell's point. Potential resistance means nothing without organization. The masses have power, but dispersed power is impotent. Only organized, directed, conscious resistance matters. Within the party, Winston and Julia represent individual resistance. Small, private, doomed, but real. They refuse internal surrender even when external compliance is necessary. This matters. Even if they fail, even if they are caught and broken, their resistance affirms that dissent is possible. Totalitarianism wants to appear total, wants everyone to believe everyone else believes. Each instance of doubt, even hidden doubt, challenges that illusion. The book Goldstein supposedly wrote, which O'Brien gives Winston, represents intellectual resistance. Understanding how power works is itself resistance. Even if the Brotherhood is a fiction, even if the book is a trap, the analysis it contains is accurate. Knowledge is resistance. Understanding totalitarian mechanisms makes you harder to manipulate. You see the techniques. You recognize the patterns. You cannot be fooled as easily. Orwell also suggests resistance through preserving the past. Winston tries to keep a diary, maintaining a record the party cannot control. This is futile in his case, but the impulse is correct. Totalitarianism requires control of history. Therefore, preserving authentic history is resistance. Every document saved, every testimony recorded, every truth maintained against official lies weakens totalitarian power. Modern dissidents understand this. They record atrocities. They preserve evidence. They create archives that regimes cannot erase. This is dangerous work. People die doing it, but it matters. Finally, there is the resistance of simply remaining human, not betraying friends, not losing empathy, not allowing cruelty to become normal, maintaining basic decency in indecent systems. This seems small. It is everything. Totalitarianism wants to transform humans into instruments. Every person who refuses that transformation, who remains recognizably human despite pressure, represents failure of the totalitarian project. Why it matters now. 1984 was published 75 years ago. Why does it still matter? Because the threat did not end with Hitler and Stalin. Totalitarian impulses persist. The human desire for total control, for power without limit, for reality shaped to ideology, this remains. Technology makes Orwell's vision more achievable. Surveillance is easier. Information control is sophisticated. Propaganda is targeted. The tools exist to implement what Orwell feared, but technology also enables resistance. Information can be encrypted. Communications can be anonymous. Evidence can be preserved. Coordination can be global. The same tools that enable control enable dissent. The question is, which will prevail? This is not predetermined. It depends on choices, individual and collective. Individual choices matter. Will you accept surveillance or demand privacy? Will you consume propaganda uncritically or seek diverse sources? Will you use clear language or accept euphemism? Will you remember accurately or let memory be rewritten? Collective choices matter more. Will societies maintain democratic norms or allow their erosion? Will citizens demand accountability or accept authority? Will institutions resist capture or collaborate with power? Orwell's warning is that freedom requires vigilance. Not just once, constantly. Every generation must defend it. Every individual must value it. The moment we assume freedom is secure, it begins slipping away. 1984 matters because it shows the endpoint of a path we could walk. Not inevitably, not unavoidably, but possibly. If we make certain choices, if we accept certain trends, if we normalize certain behaviors, the book is a warning, not a prophecy. Orwell was not predicting the future. He was showing a possible future, hoping to prevent it. Did he succeed? Partially. 1984 became cultural reference point. Big Brother entered language. People use Orwellian as a warning. The book made totalitarianism visible, its mechanisms identifiable. But warnings fade. New generations grow up not having read the book. They lack the framework to recognize totalitarian patterns. They see each incremental change as isolated rather than part of a pattern. This is why the book must be read again. Not once, but repeatedly. Not as historical curiosity, but as contemporary warning. The threat it describes remains active, adapting to new conditions, finding new expressions. The question of hope. Is 1984 a hopeless book? On the surface, yes. Winston is broken. Julia is broken. The party wins totally. No resistance succeeds. No hope survives. But Orwell included something interesting. The book ends with Winston loving Big Brother. But after that ending, there is an appendix. The principles of Newspeak. The appendix is written in past tense. Standard English past tense, not Newspeak. It discusses Newspeak as something that existed, was attempted, was part of a system that is now past. This implies that Oceania fell, that the party was defeated, that someone sometime in a future beyond the novel's ending wrote about Newspeak in the past tense using Standard English. Orwell never confirmed this interpretation. But he was a skilled writer. He knew what past tense implies. The appendix's existence suggests that totalitarianism in the novel is not permanent, that it can be overthrown, that hope exists beyond Winston's individual defeat. This reading transforms the book. It becomes not a story of total triumph of evil, but a story of one man's defeat within a system that ultimately fails. Winston loses, but humanity wins. Eventually. Somehow. The details are not given. but the implication is there in grammar itself. This is Orwell's deeper message. Totalitarianism can break individuals. It can win temporarily. It can maintain power for generations, but it cannot last forever. Systems built on lies collapse. Regimes that deny reality ultimately fail. Truth has power that outlasts any particular regime. This is not naive optimism. Orwell knew that waiting for totalitarianism to collapse is not a strategy. People suffer in the meantime. Lives are destroyed. Generations are lost. The cost of tolerating tyranny is immense. But neither is resistance futile. The appendix suggests that resistance, somewhere, somehow, eventually succeeds. Not through any one hero's actions, but through accumulated pressure, slow erosion of totalitarian power, eventual breakthrough. This gives purpose to resistance even when success seems impossible. You may not live to see freedom. Your specific actions may fail, but you contribute to an eventual victory, part of a larger pattern, a thread in fabric being woven across time. The enduring questions. Orwell left us with questions we still struggle to answer. Can objective truth survive assault? Or is reality so dependent on social agreement that controlling enough minds controls reality itself? Can privacy survive technological surveillance? Or must we accept that privacy is a temporary historical phenomenon, briefly existing between the village and the database? Can democracy survive without informed citizens? Or does modern propaganda make informed citizenship impossible? Can freedom survive without equality? Or does inequality inevitably corrupt democracy, allowing wealth to purchase power? Can humanity survive unlimited power? Or does power always corrupt those who hold it, making checks and balances eternal necessity? These are not questions Orwell answered. They are questions he posed, challenges he left his readers. Each generation must answer them again. The answers are not permanent. What preserves freedom in one era may be insufficient in another. Vigilance must adapt to new threats while maintaining core principles. 1984 gives us language to discuss these questions. It provides a framework for recognizing totalitarian patterns. It offers a warning about where certain paths lead, but it does not tell us exactly what to do. That is our responsibility. Orwell showed us the danger. We must find the response. Conclusion. George Orwell died in January 1950, 8 months after publishing 1984. He never knew the full impact his warning would have. He never saw the book become one of the most influential novels of the 20th century. But he would have been unsatisfied. He did not write the book to create literature. He wrote it to prevent a specific future. And that future has not been prevented everywhere. It has been realized in some places, approached in others, threatened in more. The warning remains urgent. Perhaps more urgent than when Orwell wrote it. The tools of control are more sophisticated. The techniques are more subtle. The dangers are less obvious, but not less real. We live in a time of unprecedented access to information and unprecedented confusion about truth. We have technology enabling both freedom and control. We face both extraordinary potential and extraordinary danger. Orwell's warning helps us navigate this moment. It teaches us to value privacy, clarity, truth, memory, humanity. It shows us what we lose when we surrender these things. It reminds us that freedom requires active defense. The year 1984 came and went. The specific date was never the point. Orwell chose it arbitrarily, reversing digits from his writing year. The real warning was not about a calendar date, but about a possible condition, a way of organizing society, a relationship between power and truth. That warning endures. It will endure as long as humans seek power over other humans, as long as governments are tempted toward control, as long as technology enables new forms of dominance. 1984 is not history. It is not obsolete. It is a living warning, speaking to every age, challenging every reader to recognize totalitarian patterns and resist them. Winston Smith lost his fight. He was broken, remade, destroyed. His individual defeat was total, but somewhere, someone wrote about Newspeak in past tense. Someone survived to tell the story, Someone preserved the memory of what totalitarianism attempted and what it cost. That person might be you. That story might be ours to write. Not the story of submission, but the story of resistance. Not the triumph of Big Brother, but the persistence of humanity despite everything designed to crush it. Orwell gave us the warning. What we do with it determines whether his nightmare remains fiction or becomes reality. The choice is ours. It always has been. It always will be. 2 + 2 = 4. Truth exists. Reality is external to power. Memory can be preserved. Language can be clear. Humans can remain human even in systems designed to make them otherwise. These are not just abstract principles. They are practical resistance, weapons against totalitarianism, tools for maintaining sanity in insane systems. Orwell understood this. He wrote through pain, through dying, through knowing he had little time. He wrote because the warning mattered more than his own survival. The warning was delivered. We received it. Now we must decide whether to heed it. Big Brother is always watching, but we can watch back. We can refuse to love him. We can refuse to surrender. We can remember what Winston forgot, that some things matter more than survival, that truth is worth defending even when defense seems futile, that human dignity persists even in the face of total power. This is Orwell's ultimate warning and ultimate hope. The system can break individuals, but it cannot break the human impulse toward freedom, toward truth, toward dignity. That impulse survives across generations, emerges again and again, refuses to be extinguished. As long as that impulse lives, totalitarianism remains vulnerable. As long as someone refuses to believe the lie, truth survives. As long as memory persists somewhere, the past cannot be completely erased. The oak trees in Orwell's England still stand. The earth turns. The seasons cycle. Reality persists regardless of what any party claims. And somewhere, always, humans resist. This is why 1984 matters. Not because it predicts a specific future, but because it illuminates a permanent human struggle. The fight between power and truth, control and freedom, the party's lies and objective reality. That fight continues. Orwell gave us weapons: awareness, language, memory, the refusal to surrender consciousness itself. Whether we use those weapons determines everything. The warning was given. The choice remains ours.